Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending upon your time zone, you have joined us today in the grand inauguration ceremony of IEEE IC Vaani podcast. IEEE IC Vaani as a new name of IEEE India Council Newsletter. It's a Hindi word, symbolizes the awareness and spreading the message in a softened words. And that's what we tend to do this year from the newsletter manner. We welcome you all joining us from different parts of Region 10 specifically and all across the globe. If you have received our invitation from different sources, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm personally glad, as well as on behalf of IEEE India Council, we are glad that Professor Lenz, the Director-elect of IEEE Region 10, has joined us today for initiating this particular great initiative, which we got the feedback from all of you from across India Council that you are eager to and excited to see podcast series in India Council Newsletter. So with that, I would like to give the glimpses of IEEE ICOANI 2022 as taken as the editor role in January 2022. I have been like kind of understanding the scenario, understanding the past edition, and trying to make a innovative approach so that the reader and the user and all the members across India Council can get a proper insights of what's happening around the council in a digital format. And we have section representative on board because just to learn it, just to get the grab, all the section reportings from each and every section across council, we thought of onboarding new volunteers, specifically student members and YPs to enhance their activeness in the volunteering, to represent their section and submit reports monthly basis to the newsletter. The third unique element that we brought up this year, that is IEEE Journey Volunteer segment. So we thought of highlighting and spotlighting some of the volunteers from different sections every monthly newsletter who have shared their journey towards their volunteering so far till date through our newsletter source. The last one, which is very inspiring element, which we have added this year, that is leader segment. So we have brought up this initiative for highlighting some of the leaders, IEEE leaders specifically from across council, whose their IEEE journey is kind of very inspirational and motivational for other members across council to get inspired from and get learnings and how they can use their best practices and learnings experience in their IEEE journey from the starting of their IEEE membership. Moving ahead, I am grateful and delightful to have our chair of IEEE India Council 2022 to 23, Dr. Suresh Nair, sir. I would like to welcome him and take over the session for an introduction and welcoming address. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ramanik. Respected Region 10 Director, Professor Lanspan, other IEEE colleagues, very good evening. This is a specific section on newsletter. Basically, a newsletter is a tool used by organizations like IEEE to share relevant and valuable information with their network. So this year, when we came out with IEEE India Council Vision in the beginning, specifically on newsletter, we have planned to have this newsletter every month than quarterly ones we had earlier. That was one of the things. As Ramnik explained, many of the volunteers are doing so many activities across the domains as well as geographical locations, and why not let our other members know about this? We believe this will surely add more members to the volunteer list. That is one thing, and also motivate non-IEEE members to join IEEE too. And Mr. Ramnik and his team is doing a great job on this newsletter. My humble appreciations. Let me briefly explain a few new initiatives which was basically mentioned by Ramnik also. The first thing was we wanted to bring out these e-newsletters monthly. This is happening now. I think we are on our way to our third edition. We also wanted to cover the entire country and all sections. That will also add some sort of a motivations to the sections on various activities. So therefore, we identified the volunteers who will be sort of reporters from these sections. So these volunteers get the news and the reports of what are happenings in their respective sections, and they report here. This also, in a way, give more opportunity to volunteers in IEEE. And if you look at our photo comes at many places, okay, as a leader or whatever it is. But there are many unsung heroes as well as great volunteers who have not come much on limelight. This is one of the area which we wanted to focus on. We try to identify them pan-India and feature them. So let me give one example, one or two examples. One was Dr. Gopalan Nair, who was featured in our first newsletter this year. He has been a newsletter editor of IEEE Kerala section, world's largest section now. He has been a newsletter editor for last 25 years. And, it is promptly the newsletters were coming out at appropriate time. He is also highly technically qualified person with a PhD and all those things. So we thought like we should feature him. That was the first one. The second edition, I think we featured Professor G.S. Vaani, who is from Pune section. He has been doing a lot of work and we thought we should feature him. So we are mainly focusing on, you can call them as unsung heroes or whatever it is, who are not in the limelight. That is the differentiation which we wanted to make. Then now coming to IC Vaani, the new name for IEEE India Council newsletter, Ramnik only came up with a new idea of this podcasting also. So we need to change with time. And I always love anything which is innovative. So today to inaugurate this, we have Professor Lance Fung, our director-elect. I think most of the volunteers, members in India knows him very well. I also got associated with him on some of the committees initially to resolve some issues. And I have to admit his approach to problems were exceptional. I learned a lot, a real volunteer. Professor Lance will be taking us through his IEEE journey. IEEE India Council welcomes Professor Lance Fung to this function as chief guest and also to inaugurate the podcast. We also invite Professor Lance to physically visit us when appropriate. Welcome, Professor Lance.
Thank you.
And we have Mr. Deepak Mathur, Director, R10. He was planning to attend, but he informed us now his inability due to some urgency. And he has been supporting us in every endeavor we enter into. I follow on him during difficult times and he guides us, all of us. We thank Mr. Deepak Mathur for his support. Even though he could not attend, his blessings are there and he has informed us specifically to convey his greetings to all. We also have a lot of our colleagues, IC members joining this, and we welcome each one of you to this function. Thank you very much. Over to Ramnik.
Thank you so much, Suresh sir, for your wonderful remarks. And it's always insightful and motivational to work under your leadership. And this year I got that opportunity to work, volunteer as an editor to the newsletter. Now, without wasting time, the moment has arrived. So I request Professor Lance to click on the slide deck just to open the curtains and inaugurate the podcast.
So you need to stop sharing, has it?
No, it's done, sir. 1 second. I need to share one slide, like the inauguration, the curtain opening, and then I will be taking. I will be giving you the.
Sharing now. I'll stop sharing now.
Okay. Give me a second. Yeah, I hope the slide deck is visible. And yes, so I just give me a second. Yeah, so I just opened the curtain just to inaugurate the podcast, and here we go. So with all the feedback, let me tell you how it got all started. We were in a meeting of India Council Newsletter internally, and all the student volunteers, the editorial coordinator, and section representative, as well as in the EXCO meeting, we proposed this, and EXCO members also came back that it's a good idea. why not we can initiate a new version of newsletter and conveying the news, what's happening around console in the form of podcast. And then we thought how it can be published. Will that be in audio format, video format, or how the frequency will be, and what will be the theme based on what we will be sharing the information about. So we ran a India Council level survey to all the IC members, and we got around 300 plus responses from all council members. And through that decision, we came to this conclusion of the features which we are bringing in the podcast for the next month as well. Every month, we will be publishing this podcast in the newsletter itself, and it will be audio plus video based podcast. You must have heard about that podcast is actually on audio. So we thought of why not we can put video as well. It's kind of a one-to-one fireside chat or kind of an interview we can feature in the podcast. And the third one, specifically, it's not intended to IEEE members exclusively. We are bringing non-IEEE members to on board just to see what's happening. And we have a separate non-IEEE member subscription to the newsletter on our website so that they also get to know about the benefits of IEEE and they will get encouraged to join IEEE right away after getting motivated from the newsletter and the podcast. Now, without wasting much time, I would request Professor Lenz to take over and help us out to get to know about his wonderful IEEE journey through his experience. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen now. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So you can see my screen now?
Yeah, perfectly visible.
Okay, all right. So in that case, I'm going to take away my camera so that I can concentrate on the screen there. Okay, first of all, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for the invitation, Dr. Nair and Remnek for the invitation. And I must congratulate Indian Council and also the India Council Newsletter on these wonderful new initiatives on the using of the new technologies of video and audio. As a matter of fact, well, you may or may not know that actually I do take some, a daily walk, roughly an hour or so, and try to maintain the health, although it never works and try to cut down my weight. But nevertheless, I really enjoy the time that I'm on my own and I just walk. And I put on the headphone and I listen to music like through Spotify. And I also listen to Patreon and some of the podcasts as well. And I look forward, well, to subscribe to your newsletter, see what's happening over in Indian Council. Because the Indian Council have been doing so much excellent work, well, throughout the years, and my brief encounter with you since 2020, well, started when my election campaign, and also some other exercise, well, as Dr. Nair has mentioned, that some of the project we have gone through. So let's come back to, well, my talk today. So I have been invited to talk about my IEEE journey, the lessons learned, and I'm expect, well, the target audience are the members, maybe some non-member as well. So I'm really humble, well, to say that it's really, well, a wonderful journey, well, with IEEE so far. But before I do that, well, maybe I need to share with you some of my background. Where am I now? Well, currently I'm residing in Perth, Western Australia. If you take a look at the map of Perth, well, I'm on the western side, on the edge of Indian Ocean. As a matter of fact, well, we are the nearer neighbor compared to the East Coast cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. So we are the closest, well, compared to all of them. And you see what you have is the skylight, well, of the CBD area across the Swan River. Well, I have been, well, working in Murdoch University since 2003 until, well, my retirement around, now looking back, around 6 or 7 years ago now. But I'm still having an emeritus appointment, well, with Murdoch University. So officially, well, I'm still part of the university, although that I have my freedom because I retired, but I still take on some honorary role. So this is what you observe is really the map of the metropolitan area in Perth. And what you observe from here, the skylight actually is from Perth over from the South Perth, overseeing this part. It's a beautiful city. I really hope that I can host you, and if you pay a visit, well, to Perth next time. So I have exactly the same question when I received the invitation. What is Vaani podcast? So my first question, well, to Dr. Nair is, what is it all about? And I'm really, well, quite glad to hear that you have already explained it already. It is a podcast. Well, this is the Sanskrit word for announcing, broadcast, symbolizing the voice of awareness. I really like the word awareness Because whatever we do, well, we must be aware of why we do it, how we do it, what we are doing, what we expect to achieve. And especially, well, if you are part of the IEEE member and you really, well, you're in partnership with IEEE as part of your professional journey. And I believe that this matter of awareness is really essential and important. And I was also told that the Indian government radio broadcast, also known as the Akasha Vaani. And this podcast is one of the new ways to communicate and share experience of leaders, well, right away with one click to the IEEE Indian Council members. And as I said, well, I do expect that well, it's not necessarily just limited to your Indian Council members. It's really, well, you could be used all over the region and also within the IEEE as well. So this is my membership card for this year. So I'm really glad, well, to see that I have already been a member for 30 years. As a matter of fact, well, just in a few years' time, well, I will enjoy my benefit as being a life member of IEEE. That is, well, my age plus my number of years membership add up together is equal to bigger than 100. So that will be a good time. But nevertheless, well, I do not really see being a life member is the end, but rather it's really ongoing as part of a life contribution and engagement. So the question put forward to me is, well, how can I share with you my life, my IEEE journey? So one of the things IEEE have been doing very well is we have developing tools along the way. And one of the tools for volunteers, well, to make use is what we call the IEEE OU Analytic. And inside there, well, we can also take a look at some of the volunteers, well, their history, the position, etc. So in my case, well, if I take a look at this, well, my present engagement in IEEE are some of these were roles, well, in the conference or organization integrity committee, in the conference quality committee, IEEE strategies and alignment committee, MJ strategic planning committee, system management and ethics society was standing committee. And then I'm really honored to be elected as the director-elect for 2021-2022. And I will assume my directorship for the next 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And I really look forward, well, to continue my work and serve you all in India. And then also, well, my role is also as a vice chair within the region as well. But really looking back to the journey, well, there is also, well, I can find out the screen, well, what I've been doing. Although I know that, well, the prints are pretty small, but I just highlight some of those, well, as I go along. As you can see that, well, I've been involvement within the chapters, within the different committees at the IEEE, well, headquarter level, under the board of directors level, within the regions, within the sections, and also within the university. So some of these were first recorded was back in over 20-something years ago. So maybe the questions, well, people may ask me, well, how did I get involved? Well, some of you have taken a look at my CV, especially in 2020, during the election. So I've given a bit of my bio. So you know a little bit of my background already. So I'm not going to spend too much time about my education, what I've done before, but really I would like to concentrate on my IEEE journey. And maybe, well, I'm not saying that, well, I'm some form of a model for you, but nevertheless, well, everyone's journey, everyone's experience is unique. So I just want to share mine, and also I want to share with you that what I have learned. So how did I get involved? Well, my study for my undergrad and my postgraduate was in England. And at that time, actually, I didn't have much involvement in IEEE because in over England, well, we have the organization over there, the equivalent professional organization is IEEE, Institute of Electrical Engineers. And also there's another one, IERE, Institute of Electronics and Radio Engineers. So I was involved with those because of that due to the undergrad and the postgrad study. But when I came over to study in Perth, well, in the University of Western Australia, I started my study in 1988. So my first involvement with IEEE was really, well, get involved, well, attend some talks in this special interest group on neural network. And at that time, well, looking back close around 30 years ago, it was really, well, quite a new area of study. So throughout my part of my PhD study, and I begin to look into this particular new topic with interest. So that's why I get involved, well, with this. And then my first publications, well, for my study was back in 1990. And then, well, officially, well, looking back, well, 30 years history. So obviously I joined IEEE in 1991. And I attended IEEE Region 10 conference, where the first one, the flagship conference was in Beijing and in China in 1993. And then, well, we also, well, held quite a major conference for IEEE in Perth back in 1995. well, that was really one of the biggest conferences we have ever held in Perth. It was not only just the International Conference Neural Network. Actually, we have 3 conferences linked up together, one for the fuzzy system, another one for the computational intelligence as well. So later on, subsequently, they become the Computational Intelligence Society. So we also held the NU Meet in Perth, 1996. At that time, the regional director was Professor Paul Chung from Hong Kong. And then, I was involved in one of the key roles. Of course, I also been involved in the section all along as well. And then, in a major role in the conference, was in 2000, where we held the PowerCon 2000. It was sponsored by the IEEE Power and Energy Society, and I was the finance chair. And then we also held the XCOM meeting in Perth, 2007. At that time, the director was Janina, and she is currently in Queensland. So that has been some of the major encounter with IEEE. But as far as my volunteer role is concerned, so maybe you might be interested to know how I get involved with some of those first time of my volunteer role. So I started off with really sitting in as a part of the committee. Well, it wasn't really recorded on the system. But officially, as an executive officer, my first involvement was back in 1998, as the section treasurer. And then I became the section vice chair and also the chair in the 2001. And then in the meantime, I also have been a student counselor. For the first university I was involved with was the Curtin University in 2000. And I have been, served in the chapters as well. So I became the chairs for Computer Society chapters in 2002. And then, for the System and Cybernetics, chapter chair, because, we haven't had any SMC chapters. So we did a petition, and then we started the SMC Society chapter. And I also get involved with the SMC Society in the Board of Governors. I got elected into it at 2010. And subsequently, I became the Australia Council Chair in 2013. And I got in Region 10 as an XCOM back in 2007. As a matter of fact, that was a time that I began to get to know our present director, Deepak. And I remember subsequently we have the Region 10 meeting being held in Gujarat. And as far as society is, as far as the other boards are concerned, I was involved with the Educational Activities Board as a member, because at that time in 2019 and 20, and I was the Region 10 Executive Committee as the chair of the Educational Activities Committee. So in MG8, MG8 is a Membership and Geographic Activities Board. I get involved in the subcommittee of the members' benefits. That was in 2013. And one of the major roles I have played in IEEE committees is in the New Initiatives Committee. So I started off with a couple of years as a member, and then subsequently I became the chair-elect, the chair, and then the past chair. So I have done quite a number of years in this major committee. But the New Initiative Committee is significant because it received the funding directly from the board of directors, and then it support innovative projects to provide a service and the products for the IEEE community. And I also been involved with the Strategy and Alignment Committee in 2019. That was the time because I was the chair of the New Initiative Committee, so I became one of the default members in the SAC. So why that committee was important? Because that was the time that we developed the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. And that was under the leadership of Jim Jeffrey. At that time, he was the past IEEE president. And again, I have quite a number of times involved with the Conference Quality Committee and quite a couple of subcommittees under that, including the Finance Committee, the Application Review Committee, the Technical Program Integrity Committee. So I have gained quite a fair bit of experience in handling the quality issue for conferences and also the operation of conferences. So the key things in here I would like to show is, really, I am really fortunate that I had the opportunity to cover quite a fair bit of the breadth and also depth within the operations of IEEE. So among the boards, So IEEE, you may not know, we have 6 major boards. Well, I have involved at least 3 of them, obviously the MG8, well, and also the EAB, Educated Activities Board, and also through the society, well, with the Technical Activities Board. And then, well, I have involved extensively, well, within the local, level, well, through the sections and also the chapters, and also at the regions level. And then, well, on the top level on the committees, well, as I said, well, the strategy and alignment committee that really chart the course, well, for IEEE for the next 5 years, actually started in 2020 to 2025. And also new initiatives, that is the one providing the funding for projects brought to us from, say, for example, like the Future Directions Committee, and also a lot of other committees from IEEE. And throughout, you can see a lot of these projects have long-lasting effects. Say, for example, like Smart Grid, well, is one of the projects that has been funded by NIC for over around 2 million or so. And then even up to now, we can see they have a significant place, well, not only in IEEE, but all over the world. And also in conference itself, well, because conference is also provided one of the major revenue for IEEE, and also this is where we have our resources into our explore through the conference paper. So on this basis, well, I would say that I'm quite fortunate. I'm able to have the extensive experience looking into different operations. Although I confess that I haven't covered all the board. So obviously, IEEE USA board, I have no involvement at all because that is limited to the region 1 to 6 in USA. Publication board, publication service and products board, well, although I don't really have a direct involvement with that, but through NIC and also some of the publications, so we also have some indirect contact. Another one is a standard association. So this is another one that I would really like to see more close collaboration with the region in time to come during my term next year. So as far as the scope of my involvement, some of these I've already mentioned. Student branches, I've been involved with 2 universities when I served in Curtin and Murdoch University. So I started off the student branch in Murdoch after I joined them. So in the section, I've more or less done all the various positions from the within the committee itself. I did different roles like membership development, newsletter, and then all those things up to the treasurers and the chair. Similarly for the chapters, and I also been involved with a couple of society. You have already observed that I have mentioned about the Computer Society and the System Man and Cybernetic, but I also been involved in Communication Society and the Power and Energy Society. With the council itself, when I was the section chair, I automatically become the member of the Australian Council. And then subsequently in 2013 and 14, I become the chair. With the region, I have been an ex-com member. And I also involved in some of these other committees, like auditing committees, the Conference Quality Management Committee, I mentioned already Educational Activities Committee, and currently I'm the region director-elect. The society, I spent 6 years in the System Man and Cybernetic society as a board of governors. Within there, I also be involved in membership development, the technical society, technical committee, and also the chapter coordinators as well. With the TAB, mainly my involvement is through the Conference Quality Committee. In the MG8, as you have observed that in 2013, I started off with my involvement as the member of the benefits committee, and I also involved in the working group. Even up to now, I'm also chairing one working group looking at the MG8 operations manual compliance, and also other ad hoc committee. Currently, I'm also on one of the ad hoc committee, a joint committee with TAB and the SA on the sustainability. And also I'm on the strategic planning committee. I've already mentioned, through the SEOC, is then the section education outreach committee. That is part of the actually EAB, not EBA, sorry. And I also mentioned about the new initiatives. So and again, I've already described to you the SAC as well. Now, what I'm trying to say in here is, I wouldn't say that I cover everything in IEEE. It just simply is so broad. Okay, so we have around 20,000 or so volunteers within IEEE. But nevertheless, I would say that I'm quite fortunate to have a fair amount of scope involvement within IEEE. Then the next question you may ask me is already, what and how did I learn? So what exactly have I learned, and how did I learn to play the roles in all these committees? So I'm just sharing with you that some of the things I have learned along the way as well. I would say that the main thing is, well, I've learned about the IEEE governance, well, principles and framework. And it is very important because we must understand, go back to the fundamentals, really what IEEE stand for, and how are we going to, govern. So this is talk about the structures that we have, the staff, and also the volunteers, and also different committee structures. And then also the operations, procedures, also very important. But we have to follow, the proper procedures. So I will share something about the do and don'ts later on. Well, one of the dangers I can see people have is thinking that, oh, I'm a volunteer, I'm sacrificing my time. Well, I don't really want people to rule over me, but that is far from that. Well, we have such a big organization. We are still actually is governed under the government laws and regulations. So we are not really free to do whatever we like. So if things that, if a violation of the charter, well, the worst thing can actually can deregister, and we never want this to happen. So how do you learn it? So I would say that fundamentally, well, I have learned, well, really how IEEE operates. You need to understand the basic structures. You need to understand, well, what is the framework, what is it based on, what are the governing principle. Then how do you find out all these? Of course, I would say the first one is, well, you really have to spend a little bit time to study the documents. Just like that when you do a study, you need to study a textbook, you need to study a reference book, you need to look up for papers. So same thing applies, well, if you want to do your role as a volunteer as well in IEEE, you have to look at the documents. You have to at least take a look at the constitutions, the policies, the bylaws, the operations manual, even the minutes, from the meetings. And also there's so many resources, training, courses, tools. Now, of course, no one can do everything. So sometimes you have to learn along the way. But more importantly, you can also learn from other people. So this is, again, very important role as a volunteer. Not only, you need to humble yourself and try to, find out information from other people. You have to learn from staff, learn from other mentors and leaders before you. But also, I would say that you also have a role to teach the other generation as well. Because we also need to raise up, the next generation to take the batons, because no one is going to last forever. Another thing I also have learned quite a lot is through the cross-OU experience. In IEEE terminology, OU stands for organizations, unit. So each of these, committee, section, chapter is an individual OU. So I would encourage to have the cross OU, multi-OU collaborations. Then from there, you understand how other part of IEEE works. And also sometimes you may have to learn from mistakes. Well, notice sometimes we do make mistakes. Well, as long as you are not a violation of the rules and regulations, we can understand that. But sometimes, you have to give it a try. But then again, you need to humble yourself. If something wrong, you have to rectify it. You have to admit it as well. So really, what have I gained? So I share with you that, what are the things that I have learned? And also, how did I learn it? But exactly, what have I gained from functions? Well, all these, around 20-something years of volunteering. I would say that first thing that you go back to the early slide, my understanding of the governance, the structures, and the operations IEEE is really important for you to perform effectively and efficiently as an IEEE volunteer. But I would say that I gained, to myself, is experience in management of the resources, the human resources, the time and the finance. Now, obviously, looking at all these, people can also ask me, how do you manage your time? Well, I would say that you really have to, because it now depends very much on the job you're performing. And I must say that you have your priority is really your family. You take good care of yourself. You have your social circles. And then you need to build up your own career. You need to build up your professional network, etc., etc. So IEEE is only part of your journey. Okay. One thing I also try to warn the people is you don't really although I didn't say it, but you actually is a part of it. Okay. So you want to make them work together, but you do not really want to make it affect your other part of your life as well. So you need to manage it effectively. But I would say that one thing I gained a lot is really the networking opportunities. Well, one of the things is it also help you in your profession and your career. It's really through the friendship and the people and the skill you learn from IEEE. And then this is mainly through the networking opportunities, knowing the people, they get the right experience. And also very important things I've learned is really broaden the horizon. Well, it broadened the horizon in the sense that not only just within the IEEE environment, but I would say that it really make you see, say for example, like technical point of view. Well, when I look at some projects, put to us from NIC, through the Future Directions Committee, you really eye-opening, and also take a look at the things they have done. They got some of the roadmaps they developed. They're looking at the horizon. I think 20, 30 years. How technology is going to develop, and also really brilliant ideas is being bring forward to the committee. So those are the things that you only benefit you not only just within IEEE, but also really your outlook, and also you have the valuable advice from seniors, leaders. One of the things I really value and treasure so much is the opportunity to interact with the president. Because when I was in the New Initiatives Committee, in the past, it was the president-elect chair the committee. And later on, they changed. President Barry should change it. So it become a normal election through the nomination committee, etc. But really, through those interactions with them, again, when I was the Australian Council chair, I invited the president to come over to our meeting, and then we got a time to interact with them. And also all the past directors within, actually all the ways go back to the first director. I get interact with Professor Low Tech from Singapore, and right now he was in the Archery Foundation as well. So not only just simply through the official interaction with them, but sometimes through the social interaction, say having a meal together, having a tea, so you get to know the family, you get to know the background, how they do the things. So that's exactly what I'm sharing with you right now. So just how they come through and what they learn is really so valuable. I value so much for the things I learn, and also staff as well. You'll be surprised at how much knowledge the staff they have. Each of the board, they have a major executive officer. Say, for example, education activities is Jamie. Jamie Morris, in MJ, that we have a CJ. So you can get so much information and so much knowledge from them. And also, some quite similar to the networking opportunity is a relationship building. So I would say one of the main things through IEEE, not the position, not the role, whatever you do, but rather the friendship you're able to build up as well. This is slightly different from just a networking itself. Networking, when we look at it, is we'll be relating back to the career technical aspect, but really the relationship is more than that. It's someone that you know that I can get some advice, not only just simply limited to my IEEE things. Maybe I can advise about my career. So these are the things I value so much. Then you may ask the next question. Well, how did I start? How did I get myself all into this? So you heard about my past involvement all the way go back over 20 years ago. I started off with different roles in IEEE. I would say that you have to make yourself available, and you also need to have some commitment. Okay, having a position is one thing, but really you need to commit yourself to it, and you really means of what you're able to develop, and also you need to have some proven experience and past performance as well. So on one hand, we say that we can make mistakes, we can learn from mistakes as well. But sometimes you cannot afford to make too many mistakes as well, because otherwise, it really affect your track record. So again, it's no difference in serving as a volunteer or compared to your career as well. So you can get yourself being recognized from other people around you, and also maybe through the recommendation. So this is something to do with the networking as well. So because people get to know you have been doing in certain roles, and then they are able to nominate you in the yearly nomination exercises. But of course, you also need to say no. It's not that you can take everyone. But occasionally, you might get the opportunity to being appointed. See, for example, like in the IEEE Region Executive Committee, a lot of the roles are being appointed. So sometimes we need to recognize someone's they've been performing well, they got experience, then we will invite them come into serve in the committee. But a lot of other roles, especially in the leadership within IEEE, they are quite democratically elected. So through the nomination committee, so some people can nominate someone to the nomination committee, but you can also do the self-nomination as well. And then ultimately, that position can go through the election process. So even we know that all the way go up to the president, they are being elected. And sometimes they may not, well, because the nomination committee can only take up to 3 candidates. So sometimes, well, you got excellent candidates, but they're not able to accommodate all. So they can only nominate 2 or 3. So some other candidates that they may feel that, okay, I really want to have a go at a position. So they can go through a petition process. The petition process is depending on the size of the membership. Then they work out a certain percentage. They will tell you how many minimum number of a petition signature you need to support you, that you can put on yourself on the slate on the candidate. So it's not unusual. Well, we have the petition candidates who are being elected as well, all the way go up to the president. So far, I hope that I've given you some, well, of my experience. Well, what have I done, and how do I get involved, what have I learned? But I would like to summarize some of these in some do's and don'ts. I'm not trying to lecture anyone, okay? Again, as I said, it's only my shared experience. Well, you can take it, you can leave it. It's entirely up to you. But I just simply want to share with you how I see, well, throughout my over 20 years of volunteering. And I would say that just like, well, what are the first things? Where do I learn all these things? Well, you have to learn. Do learn. You learn the full studies, but you really have to spend some time and take a look at the documents. You have to observe other people. And also you have to give it a go. Okay, given a role to do something, well, give it a try. Okay, well, do your best. But on the other hand, well, I would say you don't miss the opportunity. Well, sometimes if some opportunity is given to you, then, well, you think about it, you balance your time. So if you're able to do it, give it a try. Well, on the other hand, well, if you accepted a certain role, so you make sure that you try to deliver to the best you can. Okay, so if you promise something, you have to do, say, for example, I promise to be a webmaster, they're going to make sure that, well, you put time into it, well, you do your best, well, to put the information in. On the other hand, I also want, well, this is related just like the earlier part, to say don't miss the opportunity. But on the other hand, I would say don't take on something that you cannot deliver. Something you can't deliver, well, maybe, well, your time commitment. So really, you really have to balance your time. I mean, if you are studying, well, for some important examination, well, you know that this year I have to finalize my project, my PhD thesis, etc. So really, about my limited time, then you don't take on things that you cannot handle. Another thing, I think it's very important that, well, every one of us are the same as a member with IEEE, all the way up to the president, well, directors. We are just a member of IEEE, and we respect everyone. So that's part of our IEEE, well, code of ethics as well. Well, it's including our non-members and members, volunteers, well, staff. Well, you have to respect everyone. Well, do not think that you are any better just because, well, I'm in a so-and-so position. Well, so I sometimes I really identify some people, well, with such mentality. That will be one of the last person I would like to take, well, the person on. Because if some people think that, well, the position giving them a certain power, in quotation mark, then I don't think, well, the person is suitable to be volunteers. And do all things according to the policies and procedures. And this is the important aspect of compliance. Excuse me. As I said, well, if IEEE is not really doing things according to the charters, well, really, IEEE can lose its non-profit charity, well, status. And don't assume I can do whatever I like. I say specifically, I did hear people in a leadership position, well, even in a training session, but telling some of the other people that, oh, I can do whatever I like. That is a no, 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 okay? So you have to follow the procedures and policy, and you have to uphold the code of ethics and professional conduct. I would strongly encourage every IEEE member to take a good look at the code of conduct. And don't try to find a shortcut, don't try to find the loopholes, well, for the personal gains. Because you put yourself up as part of the IEEE members, well, you have to bind to the code of ethics. Well, when you do your work for IEEE, well, you're bearing the names of IEEE. You don't think that, well, this is something that you can make a personal gains of it. And we have our IEEE mission and vision. And this is exactly what we're doing in here as part of the members and the volunteers. And do not treat the position at the end. What I'm trying to say is, well, whatever we're doing, whatever title, whatever role we're playing, the end is the mission and vision of IEEE, advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. Well, we are doing things for our fellow, well, humanity. So we are not just doing things for the position. We're not doing things for personal gain. And I believe you do your best and you will be recognized. And then, well, don't be disappointed if you don't get the position or results you hope for. One of the worst things can happen is, well, some volunteers were thinking that, oh, well, I'm just a volunteer. I'm giving up my time voluntarily. I don't get it. And then they get a bit sulk or maybe get disappointed, and then they walk away. Well, just please don't do that, okay? Well, I believe that we are all just members. Well, we do the best we can. Our end goal is to fulfill the mission and vision of IEEE. It is not the position we aim for. So I'm coming to the end quick shortly. So I always would like to go back to the first page of IEEE.org. And well, in here, you can see 3 icons. So I have already mentioned advancing technology for humanity. Well, that is our mission and vision. And well, there are 3 icons I think is quite well significant for us to see our role as the members and as a volunteer. Well, we welcome the members, get connected, get involved. Well, what is it all about? So when you're being, well, an IEEE members and volunteers, really, well, the benefits given to you is, well, we have our resources, we have our information. And through this, you can get connected. So this is where the benefit you have, I see, is part of the membership in the networking opportunity I have already mentioned earlier on. And also you belong to the community that we work together, well, for the common good. And then you get yourself involved. Well, contribution and giving, well, should be the essence of the volunteers. And I always believe this saying, it is more blessed to give than to receive. But before I go, on the last slide, well, I really like this last statement. Well, I received this email from Redneck, and I like the last statement on the thought of the day. Treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them to become what they are capable of being. So really, as part of the IEEE, well, we are helping one another. We are, well, I have already mentioned, I expect the members and the volunteers to respect one another. You really, well, treat others, well, they should be, well, you give them opportunities, so you help them to develop them, to mentor them, you nurture them. You help them so they're capable, so they can fulfill, well, not only just for their personal, goal and achievement, but rather also for the IEEE mission and vision. So that's all I have for today. I wish everyone a successful and fulfilling IEEE journey. And I really like, this particular photo that I took one evening along the beach. Whereby you're looking at the horizons, well, you are like the birds you saw to the horizon, and you got a golden sunrise as well. Okay, thank you so much for your time and for attention. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I pass it back to you. Next, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Lance. It was, I would say, like, I don't have any words. You have summarized whole IEEE journey into a single slide deck, and those do and don'ts were amazing. I second, like, I guess all the participants on the call also second the same statement what I just said. With that, if you are okay, shall we open the floor for the questions to all the audience?
I suggest you can type some of the questions in the chat, and I can answer the chats.
Yeah. We do have some questions from the registration form itself, because I have kept one field. Do you have any pre-questions for the speaker and the guest? So they have given some 2 journal questions. I hope, yeah. So the first one, the first one is a very common one. What is IEEE? And I guess you have showcases what are the different benefits. But if you can just summarize in 1 or 2 words what IEEE can give to a new IEEE member who has recently joined.
Okay, so for IEEE, obviously, well, if you go to the web page and go to our first line, the IEEE is the world's largest technical professional society. Okay, so we have over 400,000 members, over 160 countries, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say that this is in general on the global view, looking at IEEE all about. And I would summarize, well, IEEE, we are a knowledge organization. Our asset is our knowledge. And also we provide the opportunity for the network. We are a community. So what benefits you can get? I would say the benefits are you can get yourself involved and you can contribute across the knowledge, and also you can get access to the knowledge. And that was my simple answer to that. Of course, you want to know specifically and some others, terms, that you can really go to the IEEE website on the membership benefits. We have an excellent website and give you itemize all those benefits. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir, for that remarks. Coming to the second very important, I guess this is what we as IEEE volunteers and leaders all the across IEEE, we are struggling with this. How a young professional who has just recently joined IEEE after like graduation and joined industry, what's there for industrialists or YPs in IEEE?
So just repeat your question as well. What is IEEE for YP? Is it right? For young professions?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Well, okay, I will look at it two ways. Well, I've already mentioned a couple of times the networking opportunities is the community. So we have the opportunity through the attending the activities, you get to know the people, you can get opportunity to volunteer as well. But more importantly, well, to helping you as part of your career, well, this is really, well, where IEEE comes in with our knowledge and technology. I would strongly encourage you explore, well, say for example, like our future directions. We have a lot of those projects. You have to identify, first of all, what do you want? What is the area, your expertise? And then you look at, well, where does, well, IEEE suit in this particular area? Okay, say for example, if I'm computer, so I would say that, okay, first of all, you may take a look at being as members, not only just IEEE, but also computer society. Okay, so if you're academic, then of course you're looking at the publication. But if you're industry, then I would say you look into the standard association. We have a lot of standard as well. If you want to look into the future, then you look into the roadmaps. So we have so much information in there. So I would suggest that, well, you really go back to the young profession. So, okay, where are you heading? But also, I also mentioned about the part that we're getting advice, well, from the seniors. So maybe, well, through, well, your activities, you get to know some people who are successful. So you get an opportunity to have a chat with them, then try to find out something, well, whatever you can learn from them. So that's some of the things, well, I can advise, well, I can make some suggestion in here. But I have to confess that, well, I myself have been very fortunate. Well, my IEEE journey, well, has started off with my supervisor, who was my PhD supervisor, and then really Professor Kippo Wong. So he coached me along, and then, well, started off different roles within his section in the conference. So that's very important. So I would also suggest for the senior volunteer as well. You take the roles and look out for some of these young professionals. You help them to work with them as well. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you so much. I guess that resonates with the vision of our current IEEE president. IEEE is your real professional home, and I believe the participants who have asked this question and going to ask this related to YP benefits, hope they have got answer to it. So we have two questions left on the chat window. Dr. K.S. Madhavan asked, in a forum where one is a chair, some people listen to them and some do not. So how do you manage such members? How do you manage this situation when people are not listening you as a leader?
Okay, first of all, I have to clarify what does mean by listening to you, and what do you expect them to do. I myself, well, is a father of two, and I have two girls. So I would say that, well, they're quite different. Well, one will be quite independent. One is well, really quite compliant as well. Okay, well, one is just simply you tell her whatever. Well, I'm talking about when she's young. Of course, now they are much older, or much bigger young ladies now. But really, I don't really believe that we can expect everyone follow whatever we expect them to do. Everyone is individual. Well, you and I are individual. So why you want them to listen to you in the very first place, right? So if they are volunteers, well, you line up some of the roles. If the person cannot do it, well, not listening to you, not doing the things, well, you have to think about what is your plan B. Or can I get somebody to fit in as well? You cannot simply put the blame on the person who don't do it. They cannot get the job done. But I would say that, okay, well, what is your plan B? Okay, yes, the person doesn't listen to you, so what? You have to deliver. And also, if it cannot be done, it cannot be done. Yes. So I have to quantify the question of why you want him to listen to, and why is it, well, you need the person to listen to you. So that I hope this is just my personal way of doing things. Okay. Second question.
Yeah, so I guess we can take the last one now. So the question is from a student member Subra, who is also the part of this podcast team. What's your suggestion in bringing more research mindset in young minds through the support of IEEE? Is there any way IEEE members can get more chance to explore technology outside the campus?
Okay, actually, so it's a good question. Well, especially talking about the younger and the student, etc. Well, one of the things that I do see that actually we do have our opportunities to engage the members, the youngest one, through a lot of these competitions. Say, for example, the one we just started recently is on robotics, right? And then we do encourage people who have some innovative ideas. And I would strongly encourage the local leaders or the sections, the chapters, YP, whatever it is, you think of some innovative project, because you cannot expect actually to do everything up from the top. I would strongly encourage, when my plan is, I would encourage some of the local groups to develop your work. And I would say that as a regional director, my role first of all is to represent you. Second thing is to ensure things are being done according to the rules and regulations of IEEE. And then we need to support you. So in other words, my role looking at from IEEE itself, it's not so much that we tell you what to do, we give you all the program, but rather I would say that we will support you with your program. And you know what is the local requirements, what's the local demand, what is the needs locally. And then we can make a decision. Okay, is your work you're doing, is it within our charter of IEEE? We cannot give you money to start a business. Let's make it quite clear. So because one of the things when I was in the NIC, people look at it, oh, you have so much money. Well, can we get some capital investment or we can start our startup company? The answer is no, 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 no. IEEE is not meant to do a business like that. But we are advancing science and education, etc. Okay, so those are the things that we can only tell them. So how to set up your research mindset? So really, we have a program like STEM. Okay, well, we have programs like the tri-engineering, so that all the way go down to the K to 12. So you have go after the YP. So I would say encourage some kind of competitions, hackathon, programming extreme, etc. So there's so many programs. Okay, so I would say rather giving you the answer, but what will I do? What not? The only thing I would do is I work with your local leaders and hopefully to support your initiative. That's what I would say. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I hope so. Subra must have got his answer. Thank you so much for that. With that, without, I guess, delaying the agenda, so let's begin with the next agenda point. So I would like to request Dr. Suresh Nair, sir, for giving a, unfortunately, virtual memento. Otherwise, we would be handing over in person to you.
Right.
So over to you, sir. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to hand over this virtual memento, Professor Lanspang. So it was really wonderful, the benefits you have described very nicely. What are the lessons learned, that those were listed very, in a nice way, like understanding of IEEE structure and operations, then your experience in management of resources. That was very interesting, like human, time, and finance. Because you have rightly mentioned, I also have been telling the volunteers, it's not like you have to spend your whole time on IEEE activities and leave everything. I know a few volunteers like that. They focused only on this and on their regular professional career, they got into some trouble. So it's like you have to balance it. So that is one of the very good point which you highlighted. And also networking opportunities. That's what I think we get by becoming a member in IEEE. And also you did not forget to mention about the valuable advices from senior leaders. That is very interesting, and I'm seeing in the today's participant list, we have Professor V.K. Damodaran, who is a live member, very senior live member, who is also participating today. So we always get, their advices because, they have enough experience on that. And the last point, the relationship building, that's also very, very important. So you touched upon everything. I think this will be a real useful, fruitful podcast for us. Thank you very much, Professor Lance. Join.
Okay, thank you again for the opportunity. I'm sorry that I'm not able to answer all the questions, but I have my email address as lancccfund@iee.org. Yeah. So I hope I'll be able to communicate with you if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, yeah, thank you so much, sir. With that, surprises are yet to reveal. So a kind of a notification to all the members on the call. we are strongly looking forward volunteer like you, leader like you, to feature on newsletter upcoming issue. As Suresh sir mentioned earlier, last year it was quarter-wise newsletter. Due to bringing a digital newsletter and making some automated process to bring a lot of content together, and we can feature maximum of the volunteers and leaders, I formally request everyone to take a look on to the submission URL on our newsletter, and I shared the link onto the chat window. With that, I would like to invite Dr. Rajeshri ma'am, the Secretary of IEEE India Council, to give a vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ramnik. Respected Lance Fung, Director-elect Region 10 2022. Respected Suresh Nair sir, Chairman IEEE India Council. In absence, Region 10 Director Deepak Mathur sir, Ramnik and my Exicom colleagues here. Good evening, and maybe I think good evening only to even Lance Fung also. So it was such a great, time to listen to Lance Fung. So it was absolutely, delight, I would say, like all those 30 years of your time with IEEE, even capturing from student branch to region 10 director level. So it was amazing journey, and then very, very inspiring to all of us. So thank you so much for your valuable time spending here with us and inspiring our audience today. So absolutely the commitment, see, once you take up the position, the commitment is very important. So that point which you brought out was so excellent, and that's a lesson to all of us who have gathered here to understand. So thank you once again on behalf of IEEE India Council. Please accept our heartfelt thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you
So
so much.
Deepak Mathur sir, yes. Deepak Mathur sir always is an inspiration. So though he may not be present in physically or virtually today in this meeting, so but I can see Ramnik, Region 10, who is it? Is it someone joined or is it Deepak Mathur sir? I had a doubt, so I thought I just wanted to confirm.
No, ma'am, I don't think so. The ID is there still on the, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, he informed us before. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much to him also for being always with us. Suresh Nair sir for his inspiration and support always and guidance. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you to all my Exicom members for the support. And Ramnik, like you are bringing that vibrancy to this team. I remember discussing the name, the logo, and then the whole format of our newsletter has changed. That's a great change that you have brought to the newsletter. Keep up doing this good work. Thank you so much. Not only to you, the entire team of newsletter and this new format of coming up with podcast also. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Stay safe and
Yeah.
healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeshri ma'am, for giving a vote of thanks. And as I mentioned, there's not enough thanks that we can give to our chief guest, Professor Lenz, to join
Absolutely,
us
absolutely.
in this night time. I guess it's around 10 o'clock or 10:30 p.m. at your side. So thank you so much for joining us at that time. With that, the last surprise, that is like we are going to share a handout pamphlet to all of you who have registered with us, kind of including all the reference link to join IEEE and all the benefits what is being discussed in the talk today. So it will be showcased and featured onto the upcoming March issue, which we are going to release on 15th April, and you will be receiving an e-notice as well within India Council scope. With that, I would like to invite everyone to please open up your camera and get a chance to feature on newsletter. And please don't mind whatever background you are having, it's fine. We all are working from home, so it's totally fine. But yeah, we miss human faces to see after this 2.5 years, I guess. So yeah, please feel free to come open up your camera. Okay, that's great to see Dr. K.S. Madhavan, Dr. Padma ma'am from Hyderabad section, Dr. Selja from Pune section. Wow. Okay, let's wait for 1 or more minute and then we maybe take a screenshot. Come on, I'm hoping for more people to join so that my first screen should be fulfilled with the faces. It's really boring that someone address you by your name if the pic is not there. it will be very much open that once we join offline somewhere, it will be good. Hey, I will be aware that, hey, this is Dr. Shalja, ma'am, we met in the India Council workshop. So that would be great if we can see your faces as well. Okay, fine. I guess we can take one, and I won't take immediately. I will obviously tell you so that you can smile. So on the count of 3, 2, and 1. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much, Professor Lance, for joining us today
Thank
in
you again.
the inauguration of the podcast. And we hope that all the volunteers, all the members of IEEE over the call, as well as non-IEEE, they have also joined. Around 15 to 16% of the ratio were non-IEEE members who registered for today's workshop, and they have participated today. So it's great to meet with all of you and make new friends today on the call. So please take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.